All right, I'm going to introduce some concepts and some terminology that I think will help SimCloud employees on both the SaaS or software side and the pro services side, as well as our customers get a better understanding of what's involved in turning a B2B e-commerce vision into a reality. So I'm going to walk through the concepts of what I'm calling programs, projects, platforms, and a solution, and talk through where I've seen rub points come up in the past with customers, or where customers have not understood the full scope of what's involved as they're looking at implementing a platform like SimCloud and potentially getting help from our pro services practice as an implementation partner. So hopefully this will give people a common language to talk about and help people better troubleshoot or troubleshoot problems or identify where problem areas occur, and whether it's process related, org chart related, or something related to a platform or an overall project. So basically, SimCloud, Sim is customer interaction management software. We invented that software category, and really, when you boil it down, it's e-commerce that's built for B2B companies. And there's components in there that's e-commerce, public web store, and portals. There's CRM style or worker productivity components, and there's a full integration with back-end ERP systems, which is part of what makes Sim work. If you look at the first concept that I'm going to introduce, going from the first slide, is basically an overall program. A program is basically a series of projects that's designed to increase, in the Sim world, customer self-service and worker productivity capabilities. So if you look at a customer interaction management program, the end goal is for a customer to deploy a solution, which may involve one or more platforms like SimCloud, but they want to deploy a solution that helps them gradually move towards their dream goal. Projects is the mechanism that they're using to take steps towards their dream goal. So a program may be a many-year overall initiative or objective, and there is a program manager who is the person on staff at our customers, under our customers' employ, that basically owns the overall vision and outcome of the program. If you look at the whole promise and what is driving the SimCloud platform is this dream goal for B2B product-centric companies of basically being able to grow sales and not headcount. Or if you look at the ultimate dream goal, what would be nirvana, is they could get and keep 100% of their market, their target market, so they could earn a total monopoly, and they could do it totally automated. So they could get their customers to self-service for 100% of everything they do. You can't get better than that, because you're winning the whole market, you're getting and keeping the whole market, and everything's totally automated, which interestingly enough, I believe is Amazon's goal. If you look at what's required to do that, if you look at an XY axis, there's a bunch of capabilities that you have to obtain and have the ability to do to allow your customers to self-service. And then there's things you have to do to get adoption or usage of those capabilities across your customer base or workers. So the program is driving you towards this dream goal. That's kind of the ultimate vision or beacon. And you have a series of projects that you're carefully determining what's next. Am I trying to get more capabilities? Am I trying to get more adoption? And if so, in what areas? So projects are the tool that you're using that have a specific set of deliverables, a defined budget, a defined scope, and a defined timeline that's helping you pick off either obtaining capabilities and or obtaining adoption amongst your customer and worker base, workers being employees, typically. If you look at a program example, this might be an example program where there's a clear objective on what's needed. There is one and only one program manager who might be a VP of sales and marketing or someone in that role, or the CEO of the company. And then you have identified over a longer term period, maybe a multi-year period, this is the key results that we want to accomplish over a 3-year target period. And they are specific measurable outcomes that you can quantify and determine whether or not these were accomplished. So these might be a series of key results or an example that might be part of a customer interaction management program of what you're trying to do to improve customer self-servicing and improve employee productivity. If you look at that, some example projects that might come out of that, these are picking off particular pieces. So if you had that as your overall SIM program, Your first project might be, I want to deploy a customer self-service tracking portal that works with our Sage ERP system and allows our customers to see orders, shipments, open and past invoices, payments, and credits. So that might be one project. You might put your director of customer service as the project manager. The project manager is responsible for delivering that outcome within the budget and the deadline, and the outcome is the scope or the deliverables that are needed to achieve that outcome. That's the project scope. A project plan is someone basically lining up platform resources and all the actions or tasks that's going to hit the scope and the budget and the deadline. And the team are all the people, whether they're in-house or outsourced, that are going to fill the job functions. So when people buy an e-commerce platform, I'm going to get into platforms versus projects here in a second. The platform has the capability that with projects you can move into the platform and obtain the capabilities, move your content, do the settings, get it synced up with your ERP system or other business data, and then do some promotion to go get the adoption from your target customer segments that you're going after for the particular functions that you're trying to bring online. Those are a project. So projects can be big or small. If I go out and do some yard work for 3 hours on a Saturday, that's a project, and there's multiple tasks. I might be the project manager, the project planner, and the worker that's doing all the work, but that's a project. When you get into larger, more enterprise projects, you can get huge projects in scope. So we have seen things with deploying SimCloud or e-commerce that are smaller projects that maybe someone doesn't have a defined program. They're just trying to accomplish a specific goal or outcome, and maybe that morphs into an overall program. Maybe they have a program and don't know it, or don't think in terms of they have a program that's a series of projects and they're trying to re-platform an e-commerce site. But make no mistake about it, there is a project going on, and there is a project manager, whether that person knows they're in that role or not, who ultimately is accountable and responsible for delivering the outcome of the project, whether it's defined or not, and whether the budget's defined or not. Another example project might be, once I get this up, my director of marketing now owns a project that might be smaller scope and time frame of getting 15% of our dealers to use that AR tracking portal on a monthly basis. And there's some measurable saying, I need, if I got 1,000 dealers, I want 150 of them using it at least once a month for a 3-month period in order to achieve that. And there's a project plan that might be marketing and training related and other things that are going to achieve that outcome. But these are example projects that might be part of an overall SIM program. And again, we have seen customers just deploy the platform and have a small project and say, hey, I'm going to go see if I can get something basically deployed and get something out there to use. And we've seen very large projects where they have a large in-house custom application that's a long-standing, highly modified e-commerce application that they're trying to do an entire platform replacement with ERP integrations. Those are very different projects in scope and very different risk profiles and very different project team and project plan makeup that's needed to accomplish that successfully. If you look at a platform, so what I've just described as programs and projects, now I'm going into a platform. A typical thing, this just happens to be a snapshot of our platform in the different tiers, the pricing tiers that we have in our platform. But basically, if you look at the inner blue circle, that's kind of the size of the platform itself can vary based on what's in the price tier. So there's functionality or extra bundles that we have in each price tier, and then there's add-on functionality that you can get that's optional across all tiers. If you went to the full enterprise platform and then bought all the add-on modules, that becomes a very large platform implementation. So even within standard software platforms like SimCloud, there's a significant variation in size of what's being rolled out or what's being deployed with the standard product platform. If you look at the size of an overall solution, that the solution is basically a platform plus adaptations. So the blue part is the platform, which varies based on what I just described above. The light blue next circle is the adaptations or technical configurations that go along with the platform. So that's doing settings and tweaks and modifying it within a set of technical configurations. And the SimCloud platform has a large volume of adaptations or technical configurations that can be done to modify the platform. It's a very robust and flexible platform. And then on top of that, the orange is actual customizations. That's writing custom code or custom modifications to the platform. If you look at the overall solution, what I'm calling the solution is basically the platform plus project or projects that have added adaptations and customizations, as well as putting data and content into the platform to turn it into a unique solution. So if you look at a jumbo solution for this, that product or solution that is the outer circle might be very different than the core kernel of the SimCloud or whatever other software e-commerce platforms in the middle, because of the adaptations and customization. Incidentally, and I'll go through this, as you get into larger solutions, the need for in-house capability and the need for strong personnel that can manage a solution like that that's very unique goes up significantly, and I'll walk through that. And we've seen lots of rub points with that in the past with our own staff and customers not understanding that the complexity grows significantly as the level of customizations go up on a platform, and it becomes more expensive to maintain. So you've got to be careful as you're making decisions on customization. Are you really getting return on investment or value from it? And I'm using simple circles there to look at the solution. A typical solution when we're putting one together is actually more involved, because there is the SimCloud platform, the ERP sync, the SimCloud to ERP sync framework, which we install a sync tool, and we have a whole framework on the cloud side making this work. And then there may be adaptations and customizations in the ERP system itself. So the overall solution is more involved than just the SimCloud platform, because we're deeply integrated with the ERP system. As you get adaptations and customization, it gets significantly more complex as the overall solution grows. So this would be a typical Sim solution that we're involved with. Looks like this. So I've represented it up above just by simple circles to show a visual cut. The other thing to understand that I'll introduce here is going back to programs, projects. Program is a long-standing overall vision you're driving towards, and you're using a series of finite projects to accomplish outcomes towards the overall program objective. And picking those off. You may use one or more platforms, like an e-commerce platform or a CRM platform or a sync framework, as well as your ERP system that is likely going to be involved in all that in the B2B world. And then there is basically a solution, which is the platform plus all the adaptations, customization, all your content and data that's making that a unique solution that's out there in the marketplace. So effectively, if you look at it, this left column, and I'll step out and go into some other pieces in a second, there is basically hats or organizational chart responsibilities that are needed for program management, for projects and project management, for platform deployment and support, and for the overall solution and deployment and support. And the people involved in which organization they belong to, it's critically important to understand that. When I see escalations go on with customers or frustration, regardless of whether it's with SimCloud or other e-commerce platforms, very typically it's because there is spots missing in the org chart, and the other company thinks the other party is responsible for filling the spot, and they're not even aware that it exists or don't think they should be filling the spot. There is also process or operating system related stuff that needs to happen to successfully manage programs, to successfully manage projects, to successfully manage the platform, and to successfully manage the solution. And those are all very different things and have very different responsibilities. So within SimCloud, we have a SaaS company or a software company that basically deploys and manages the platform. We also have a pro services group that can assist with the project and a few little pieces of the solution or the program, but largely the solution and the program are managed by the client, and in many cases the client takes on projects. So we sell our platform without a project. The fact of the matter is there is a project, it's just that the client owns the responsibility for all the hats, wearing all the hats in the project, because it is still a project. It's just they are not contracting with our pro services division to help them execute or manage or plan the project. So I'm going to go into a couple of those pieces here as we go into this. If you look, this is just a little Google sheet that I pulled together talking through the program, project, platform, and solution. And I'll start here with the org chart. If we look at the program, these are typical roles that are involved in the program. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. These are typical roles or hats. They don't have to be full-time employees. They might be. And they don't have to wear this hat full-time. They might. But it talks about who's responsible for that. So the overall project program manager, that's the person that's responsible for the overall e-commerce and or CRM endgame of taking it in a multi-year period where it needs to go. And they're the ones that will basically initiate or authorize projects and budgets and define the outcome and make sure that they have people responsible and accountable for delivering the outcome of those projects. You also have program architects that help shape the vision and the overall project objectives. So they might be helping shape a series of objectives and potential projects back to back, boiling it down to a phase one project that's deploying the core platform. So they might be involved in the overall vision, aligning it with the business stakeholders, what's the best way, who are the target customers we should go after, what capabilities should we be bringing online that's going to give us the best ROI or return on investment as we're going through that. The program architects are going to shape the overall vision and drive what makes sense to work on next. So they're deciding what to do and when it makes sense to do it, working with other business stakeholders. And then if you get into an agile approach, which we see companies do that have ongoing projects end over end, they might be working more in an agile type environment where they have a scrum master and they're making pushes that are monthly or quarterly pushes of pushing projects through to get more capabilities or adoption on the platform. But very typically what you'll see, the SimCloud software company is not involved in program management at all. We're down here in the platform. Our pro services group can optionally get involved and help out with some of the program needs, but this is largely the responsibility of client, and maybe you have some partners or other people that you lean on to get help in those roles. But those are key roles. And then if you look at the processes associated with a program, there's defining the vision and quarterly objectives, or excuse me, defining the vision, defining the annual and quarterly objectives, that's a typo there, and the key results associated with those objectives. Determining and approving projects, so they're maintaining some list of ideas or backlogs or issues or potential things that might help get more capabilities or more adoption, like saying, hey, returns are a big pain. I need to get returns in our e-commerce platform so customers can self-service and do it. And I need a way that reps can help them process the return or approve items before they go in as an RMA into our ERP system. Just a simple example of an idea that might be in the backlog in a potential project. Then they're going to prioritize and estimate those projects and approve and assemble a project team, which will ultimately appoint a project manager who's responsible for delivering the outcome of the project. They're going to maintain scorecards to measure results, and they're going to maintain the org chart for program, project, and solution to make sure that the right hats, the hats are identified and are being worn. Generally, when you have problems, it's a process breakdown that they're not defined or being followed, or you don't have the right measurements in place or scorecards, or you don't have the right people in place in the org chart. Most of the time, it's a people issue where there's a hat and responsibilities that need to be taken, and it's not clear who owns them. If you look at projects, there's a series of people involved in the project cycle, and there might be a whole bunch of hats in a smaller project that's all worn by one person, like my yard work example. I might be wearing all the hats on my yard work project. It's a one-man project team. When you look at this, SimCloud as a software company is not involved at all in the project-related implementation piece. We are a component of a project which is implementing the platform piece, and I'll talk through that in a second. But as far as the makeup of the overall project team, we have a platform team that's going to be involved, that's basically deploying the standard platform. But the implementation of that whole platform and moving in and getting it customized and getting users adopting, that's all services or project-related services that are going to go on between the client and potential partners, with our pro services division potentially being a partner, but that is a completely separate group than our software side. That's the platform. So if you look at the S, G, and M are supported, guided, and managed projects. So we have a concept of supported, guided, and managed projects that determines whether or not we get involved from leading and helping out or carrying a co-load in project management as the lead project manager or lead project planner, versus supported and guided, where the client is responsible for all the lead project management, project planner, and we would typically, in a guided program, have a team level coordinator on our pro services side that might be coordinating some other moving parts or people here. On the supported, we may just have a general consultant or a subject matter expert on the platform that can help with trickier stuff beyond the standard orientation and training you get with the platform. And they're helping solve specific problems that may be unique to you as a customer, versus the platform is generically telling you this is how the platform works. So there are roles related to content and data and managing the settings in the platform. There's team level coordinators that would happen on each side. And then depending on whether there's customizations, our pro services team can get involved with that. And you may also have other partners that specialize, for example, in digital marketing, or might specialize in something related to your ERP system or whatever. So there could be a series of other partners. That is all coordinated by the project plan and the project manager that's keeping all those resources lined up and on schedule. If you look at the process here, there's a plan and manage the approved projects, and then in general you're doing things to get capabilities, which is one of those axes on the XY diagram I showed you. So there's software features, ERP sync, there's app setting and content data that you're loading. So you're doing things to get the capabilities, and then you're doing things to get adoption within the project. And there's a bunch of hats that are required to be worn to have a successful project, starting with a clearly defined outcome of the project and a plan that's going to align the resources, and a project team that has the capacity and is willing to go do the work and work into the schedule to get it done. If you look at the platform piece, you could see that all of this lines up under SimCloud. These are roles that we have from people that sell to customer success, who are just responsible for making sure the client can adopt and have success on the platform. And they would be lining up partners or pro services groups or trainers with our platform or training materials to help the client succeed. And then there's basically a coordinator that's handling the standard deployment. Usually there's some things that have to be scheduled and lined up. So we have a coordinator that many times might be the same person as customer success. We have someone that deploys the platform, someone that deploys the ERP sync and gets it all tested. We have someone that is involved in training and orientation. So the customer success person would kind of coordinate these people as they're going through. And then there's ongoing support, ongoing account management to handle upgrades, downgrades, things like that. And then there's also standard version updates, which is keeping you on the latest version, and executing feature upgrades and downgrades. If you look at that, that's basically just the deployment and continuous delivery of the software as a service within the platform. And there's no other parties involved. This is basically just a general process, set of steps that we go through to deploy projects and then to keep them updated and modified as you're adding or removing features from the platform. The solution is the unique creation for the client that, again, has the platform at the kernel, and depending on whether it's a small or a jumbo or somewhere in between, may have a significant number of customizations or be a very unique solution. The responsibility of the solution is on the client, and it's because you are the one that's responsible for the unique output. The platform is there, and you're using a productized platform to deliver your solution and maintain your solution, and it's because you're getting the economies of tens of millions of dollars, in our case, of R&D investment in the platform and ERP sync capabilities, that you don't have to go reinvent yourself. So you're getting a lot of industry standard best practices and capabilities as you're going through that. But if you look at that, some key roles here is a user training and adoption hat. That's someone that's making sure the workers or employees and the customers, the various different segments, are actually using the software and going out there and adopting. There's product manager. A product manager is a critical role that we stole out of the software arena or out of any product company that is basically in charge of understanding the users and what they can do to make a better, more sticky user experience. And the more unique your solution is, the more there is a critical need for that product manager. It's one of the trickiest roles to fill, and it's critically important for overall adoption and ROI, and helping the program managers decide what should actually be done next and how am I getting return on investment. And that may be a very small hat that is the same person as the program manager that's doing a few other things, that's making decisions if it's not a very unique solution, or it may be a full-time role if you have a really unique custom solution. And then a lead operator, this is a person that knows the ins and outs of the entire solution. That's the application plus the adaptations, the platform plus the adaptations and customizations, the whole sync framework and all the adaptations and customizations to the ERP framework. That is a critical role for the success of SimCloud to support the standard application, pro services to potentially support customizations on an ongoing basis, and for the overall application to run, there has to be someone that is a domain expert on the overall solution that is in-house. And the more custom and unique it is, the more critical that role becomes and the overall success of the entire program and this solution as you're running through it. And then for customization, if you choose to do customizations, it's important to understand that there is a stabilization period after customizations are done that costs money. There is an ongoing operation and maintenance that costs money, and every time version upgrades happen, depending on whether the customization's in the ERP, the sync, or in the SimCloud or e-commerce application, or all of three, when you're doing upgrades to the core platform, the platform R&D people are not looking at customizations and saying, I got to make sure this works for your unique solution. They are basically pushing out new versions of the software, and it's up to you to make sure that it conforms and works with your customizations, work with the solution. So our pro services group, when they do customizations for a fee, they can provide stabilization and operation and version upgrades. But it's important to be aware that those things cost money, and you are going to need to factor that in when you decide whether or not customizations make sense. So going back to this, if you look at those different job functions that we just talked about and the processes associated with these pieces, there's a couple things that you need to understand related to managing the solution complexity, and that's the overall solution, platform plus adaptations plus customization and your content and data. Basically, complexity is typically a factor of the size of the solution, the quantity of platforms that are sharing data. So in a typical SimCloud, there's two, Sim and the ERP. Where the components of the solution fit into the value chain, and I'm going to introduce that concept in a second. And the size of the unique components or customization, how much customization is in the platform, and then also the level of adoption and usage. As you get more and more customers and workers using it and using it in different ways, the solution gets, there's more complexity there of making sure that you're delivering good service levels to all the different users. So when you look at solution size versus complexity, now I've taken a chart showing you the size of the solution, and I'm going back to my grid on the blue is the core platform, light blue is adaptations, and orange is customization. As you are getting into medium, large, and jumbo platforms, the complexity is exponential that goes up as you increase the size of the solution. The complexity is on a logarithmic scale of the complexity going up. So you've got to be aware of that when you're making customizations. There are times to do it where it makes a lot of sense, and I'm gonna talk through that in the business value chain. There's a lot of other times we see clients choose customization, and it's because they don't understand the negative impact of it. Otherwise, they would have never chosen the customization because it's not really delivering or creating differentiation or delivering value. So this is taken from a guy named Simon Wardley, I think is how you pronounce it. It's mapping components in the business value chain. And he talks about, if you look at the e-commerce on a whole, or B2B e-commerce, there is basically a lot of productized stuff out there. And basically, as you go from 1 to 4, you're going from Genesis stuff that's totally uncharted, chaotic, uncertain, and unpredictable, all the way to commoditized stuff that's industrialized, ordered, known, and it's low margin. It's essential to the business. But the key thing here is the closer you get to 1 and 2, the more critical it is to have in-house core competencies to manage that. So when you look at your solution, if it's largely standard product or stuff in level 3 and 4, you can have less in-house core competencies because there's value. You're so standardized that there's economies in being able to pay retail for labor to handle responsibility areas. As you get closer to 1 and 2, or have a lot of 1 and 2, number one, you should make sure that when you're introducing 1 and 2, you're doing it because it is truly unique to your business, and it's truly creating differentiation and a value add in the market. If it's not, go to the product and commoditized stuff. If you can't do it and you have to do custom and Genesis level stuff, then it's critical that you start bringing on more job functions in-house, or you're going to have a really painful or really expensive experience with your overall solution and the program management associated with SIM or B2B e-commerce. The other thing is, if stuff is out there and available in the product and commodity arena, it makes no sense to try to build that from scratch in-house because you'll never keep up with the R&D efforts of a company like us that can sell it to hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of customers that are all contributing a little bit towards that R&D cause. You won't keep up. So your goal, if you have a truly unique solution, is to leverage as much product and commodity related stuff as you can, and only do the unique custom and Genesis stuff where it creates differentiation and you truly are unique. So customizations aren't bad, but a lot of decisions we have seen customers make on customizations were bad decisions because they were made on the premise that I can just spend it once and there's no negative consequences or unintended consequences, and it's simply not true. Customizations are expensive to maintain, so you've got to have you've got to create strategic differentiation to justify it. If you have the strategic differentiation, as you get into more unique applications, so here size is going out. So if you look at the 1 yellow line, that's the medium, the 2 is the large, and the 3 yellow is the jumbo. There are job functions that are introduced that I've already talked about that become more and more critical as the uniqueness of the application increases, or the size of the application. So when you get into stage 1, you're getting into a program manager, a lead operator, end-to-end QA testing and user training and adoption, someone wearing these hats. As you get into stage 2, that's where a lead project manager and a lead project planner will help you. When you get into stage 3, as you get more unique, you have to get someone that has product management capabilities, capacity, and the ability to do the job. And you've got to have, in stage 4, it starts making sense that if you're doing and maintaining customizations, to have the developers or makers in-house, because you have such a steady stream of labor going into those things that you've got to have platform capabilities to do it, and in-house labor where you're paying wholesale for labor instead of retail as it goes through that. And they have the unique domain knowledge of just having to focus on your solution and your application and your unique problem set versus a solution provider or a platform provider is going to have very generic knowledge that's broad brush across many companies' solutions. So that's in a nutshell. As you're evaluating what you're doing with B2B e-commerce, just recognize the job functions and processes associated and where the lines are drawn between the program, projects, the platform or platforms, and the solution, knowing that a program is ultimately driving and expanding your solution, probably leveraging one or more standard platforms so you can get that productized or industrialized stuff, and the solution is how you're customizing it or adapting it, and you're using projects to basically drive more capabilities or more adoptions into your overall program goals.